Welcome back to another Axure session, and in this session you might be wondering why the hell is he creating this form with these fields. You know, what's so special about the form, because we already covered that in previous session. We are gonna cover how to take the data the users basically input in your prototypes for whatever reasons and export it. Now Axure doesn't really do that, but I'm gonna show you a workaround of how you can, let's say, at least email the nodes user submits, so that you can keep a track of, let's say, what user submits. Because, you know, in some instances when you user test and when you produce your prototypes, you just want to know exactly what users input, so you know how to inform, let's say, the content decisions. Let's say in this specific case I just created 3 simple fields for fictitious use case, again, you know, joining for a waitlist, and how to export that data every time the user submits it. We're gonna use an email link, and we're gonna use a markup of how to, let's say, take that data and export it. It's not ideal, but that's probably one of the only ways to do so in Axure without using third-party plugins and extra development, you know, afterwards. So if you have your form, you know, maybe a registration form, maybe some sort of personal account detail form, you would then go and just describe every field in a certain way. So, you know, we always give it a name. So I would give it, let's say, field number 1, I'm gonna say it F1 is name. Again, syntax is so I know exactly what it is. F2, let's say, is email, like intro, like bio, let's say, you know, for this use case specifically. And then I'm also gonna name my button like a trigger. So I'm gonna say BTN, because I have only one button. That's quite easy to understand. Now, every time I would click on a button, I would want to then initiate the email send. That would open an email app. So you would need to be really careful of how you explain it to your users during user testing. Perhaps once you click it, you just, you know, jump in and say, hey, this is just a demo, this is not functional prototype. In reality, it would just be processed behind the scenes. But in this instance, we're just gonna send an email to capture what you entered for our copy, updates, and interest, right? If you can manage that and you can manage expectations, I think you should be fine. But before that, I would go and, you know, in our project, global variables, just define a couple of variables first and foremost, because you would want to send it to a certain email. So we have unload variable. Another variable would be, let's say, destination email. So which email are you gonna send it to? And I'm gonna use my email. Please don't spam it. Send good stuff, good notes, any requests, feedback is always welcome. Nothing else, thank you. So every email needs to have a subject line, and I'm just gonna say user entries, user entry, just like that. I think that should be pretty well. Once you define those variables, you're almost good to go. But I would also probably check and make a variable for each of the fields you have in your form. So let's say maybe it's a name, and then each variable for email as well. Keep a syntax so you remember it. And let's say bio. I'm probably gonna forget it, but that's totally fine. And now the best bit is, as I said, we're gonna trigger it with a submit button. So if you click on submit, you select new interaction, and on click, of course, and then you set variable value. And let's assign all the values from, let's say, for this full name, value of our text field, text on widget, and then we can just select F1 name. You know, all the stuff you already selected before and predefined before. So let's say user email is gonna be text on widget, and our widget is a name email. And lastly, we're gonna select another variable, and we're gonna select bio field and text on widget, and then select bio. So now what's gonna happen here, every time I click on a button, whatever is in the field is gonna be set to those variables. We need another action, which was actually gonna send an email to, you know, to like the inbox with all that information. So I'm gonna go ahead and create another action, and we're gonna select open link, let's say. Here's the interesting bit, because you want to add a function which is with a specific markup. I'm gonna show you in a strip exactly what you need to write, but just to show you a workflow, you would click on link, external URL, and here is gonna be where you're gonna add all those different interesting bits. You're gonna write mail to, And mail to is basically HTML equivalent of launching your email client. So don't forget to set up your email client and that your email client is ready to send emails, because sometimes on testing machines we don't have that luxury to set it up. So do that beforehand, because it's just going to launch your email client and you just need to click send, right? And we're going to add variables from what we defined before, which is basically destination email, which is what we're saying is we're going to send it to the destination email, a variable which is defined, and we add a question mark to space it. We're going to also add a subject. So subject, and then add a subject line variable. And let me just bring it in the center. Now the interesting bit. So you're gonna say and the ampersand sign and say body, which is gonna be email body. Do the equal sign, and now you can form anything. I could just write hello world, and that would then be emailed to my inbox as a user entry. But I don't want that. I want to use our variables we already defined. So we can also add something like user, let's say entry. So let me use the %20, means the space between that, so we want to space it out. User entry, and then we are gonna have another %20, so that we are spacing it out. This is a must, because if otherwise everything is gonna be botched together and kind of glued together. So you want to use correct markup, and this is kind of like a URL markup, which you need to use to space it out, basically. You can also make a new line. So the new line markup would be %0D %0A. This bit is purely for a new line. This bit is for a space, right? So we're gonna say user entry, maybe even Axure, hello, user entry, yada yada yada, and we're gonna add a new line, and I'm just gonna insert a new variable, which is basically all those fields. So I'm gonna do the full name, I'm gonna add a space, and then I'm gonna add another predefined variable, which is user email, another space. You can also add, text if you wish, bio field, and that's it. And that's what's gonna give us that entry. Instead of, you could also replace the %20 space mark with our new line script, like so, and just add it in between the things so that it's nicely spaced in different rows. And that's about it. Click OK, and that is gonna open the email client. Let me show you how it works in real life. And I'm gonna say, imagine that I'm a user, I just entered all those things in whatever sequence, in whatever form you created. I'm clicking submit, and it pre-filled 2 from our variable. It pre-filled the entry of the user, but it didn't pre-fill the subject line, so I might have messed it up a little bit. Let me try again. So I'm gonna go back, and the subject line, we didn't put equal state. So what you would want to do is do mail to destination email, question mark subject equals subject line, body equals all that text you want to send. And let's preview that again. Now we submit it and we launch a client, and as you can see, it pre-fills automatically into new email, the destination, the user entry, from where, and the text of exactly what user submitted. All I have to do now is click send, and then I'm going to receive it in my inbox. So it's simple as that. As long as you keep the syntax structured and in the right order, you can achieve this. Again, just pause the video in order to capture all those details. I think the hardest part is just knowing the markup for, let's say, spaces, new lines, and the structure of the email too. I think it's the only way you can actually capture the information from the users and what users input in their data. And just be cautious that sometimes the markup, especially in the URL lines, I think it has only maybe like 200 or so characters. I might be totally wrong, but there's always a limit. So keep it really simple and really bare. Don't go, you know, lavish on different words and adding like sentences there if it's no need. Allow users to pre-fill it if, you know, if your variables. If this is useful, as usual, leave a comment down below, give it a like, subscribe to this channel, share with your friends, and as per usual, I'll see you next time.